Golden Tempo gets the money in the Kentucky Derby. We'll talk about that in the coming hour. Is it on to the Preakness? Going to talk about that too. Who's coming to the Preakness? These are important questions that we've got to dig into. Also, first baby races of the year at Laurel took place last week, and Costa Linda, call me Mickey J, win the first 2 races for 2-year-olds at Laurel Park. Who do we like out of that? What was our take on that? Going to bring in Mackenzie Pfeiffer, Maryland Jockey Club analyst, and John Piassek, who handicaps Laurel for the RacingBiz.com. Going to talk to them in a moment right here on Maryland Racing Today, part of the Mid-Atlantic Racing Today family of podcasts. Maryland Racing Today is powered by the Racing Biz, the RacingBiz.com, and presented by our friends at the Maryland Jockey Club. Please like and subscribe. Without further ado, not going to have further ado in the Preakness. Without further ado, let's bring in Mack and John. Mack, John, welcome. Kentucky Derby behind us. Mackenzie, what'd you think of the Kentucky Derby? Give me your take.
It was a great Derby. I felt like it was really fun handicapping it ahead of time. I was pretty committed to beating the Florida races. And I have to say, I think there's still reason that people are going to argue we didn't really get a fair setup for the Florida races. But Renegade, super impressive. I thought everything he had to overcome, I stand by. He's a big player for this group of 3-year-olds. And then Golden Tempo just finally had the pace set up, didn't find traffic. Really, it sets up for closers when they go as fast as they do in the Derby.
Yeah, that's often the case. Are you feeling like kind of neat history here? First female trainer to win the Kentucky Derby. Maybe we see one in the Preakness.
To be honest, it's really exciting to see it happen. Sheree DeVoe, every time I see her horses training, they always impress me. So I can't say it's entirely a surprise. As soon as I saw they entered the horse, I kind of felt like there was this itch that he had a shot. I've loved watching everything as far as the outtakes and, just being along for the ride and how much traction it's gained for the sport as well. I think these are all really great things. I know they're talking about the cutback in distance for the Preakness, but with it being at Laurel this year, I think it has to lean to his favor a little bit.
John, Mackenzie and I had a conversation like 10 minutes before the Kentucky Derby where we both said, Golden Tempo's got a shot. And I don't know if she was smart enough to put some money on him. That was the second conversation I had on Saturday about Golden Tempo where I agreed that he had a shot. I didn't have $1 on him. What about you, John?
Well, after the scratches of Full Effort and the Puma, Golden Tempo definitely moved up a lot in my power ranking. In fact, had I known the Full Effort was going to be scratched, then I would have made Golden Tempo my closer to watch in last week's podcast. The only flaw I had with him was I just didn't know if he'd get the pace to close into. But all those foreigners had a very fast early pace when they hit the half in 46-2. I'm like, this is probably going to play right into Golden Tempo's lap, and indeed it did. You can see in that replay, he even got blocked by 2 horses at the 8th pole, just angled wide on their outside and kept on going. Renegade also closed very well from off that hot pace. He was second, so it does go to show how scratches can sometimes impact one's handicapping of a race, especially with the also eligibles drawing in, possibly injecting a little bit more speed. Those foreign horses whose speed was not readily available on past performances also having a big impact. And to Mackenzie's point, it is great for the sport that Golden Tempo won. It's great that girls and young women who are into racing saw somebody who looks like them win the Derby. And the impact of that cannot be understated.
I think that's right. And you raised a point there that I want to talk about with you guys for a minute, which is the pace. Like I thought it'd be a little bit more moderate pace than it was. And, the horse that I wish were coming to the Preakness, who is not, because he was going to win the Preakness off that Derby, was Dan on Bourbon, who was part of the pace and stayed around to the end, which nobody else did. Mackenzie, what do you think? Like John, I think John and I both thought, not that I thought there'd be pace because there's 20 horses and some of them are always going to go, but I was thinking more like 46-4 than 46-2.
I completely disagree.
Okay.
All of the Derby ends up being so fast every time that I tend to write off the speed horses when I look at the race, and I just don't really worry about them for, as far as placing a win bet. Dan Ellman, I have to give him a shout out, and hopefully he's paying attention because kudos to him, Dan Bourbon. I questioned it a little bit, but very, very impressive horse, and hopefully we get to see him back, and hopefully Dan gets to see him in person at some point.
He ran huge, and probably would have won the Preakness if he'd stuck around for it. And so let's talk about the Preakness, because here's the thing about, I hope Golden Tempo comes. I think it's good for the sport when there's a Triple Crown on the line. The longer there's a Triple Crown on the line, the more public interest there is in the sport. And by public, I mean not those of us dopes who follow the sport every day, but like the casual sports fan who's like, oh yeah, Triple Crown's cool, I'll check that out. When there's no Triple Crown, they're not paying attention. But history tells us horses like Golden Tempo don't typically win the Preakness, John.
Well, typically don't win the Preakness when it's at Pimlico. I mean, the main track at Laurel, as we see, is oftentimes more favorable to closers than even the average dirt track, especially Pimlico. So, to Frank's point, of course, I hope he comes. I think only one other Derby horse is seriously considering the Preakness. That'd be the third place finisher. So it's going to be not as strong a field, of course. And if he ate up all the Derby horses, I don't see why he can't do the same thing in the Preakness. And I mean, as good as it would be, or as it was for Cherie DeVaux to win the Derby, it would be a billion times better for the sport if she won a Triple Crown, or even had a Triple Crown bid in the air for 3 weeks.
No, I agree. It's always helpful to the sport. But I'm gonna push back on you on the Pimlico versus Laurel thing. The issue is really the pace, and the Derby, as Mac just said, almost always has a melting down pace. The Preakness rarely has a melting down pace, which goes to smaller fields, typically fewer horses that are just going to gun. It's and that's a hard way to win races anyway, in the best of circumstances, Mac.
So here's the thing. We have a ton of interest in the Preakness this year. It sounds like we're going to have a very full field. So does that, and that's why I just feel like it kind of does set up for a horse like him to take a shot this year. Now, we talk about how it's good for the sport. I appreciate everything the trainers say when they're making this decision, and it's what's best for the horse. You have a very talented 3-year-old. You want to set horses up for success. And so I respect the decision. I think it's a really difficult one, but I was encouraged in what I've seen from media posts with how he looks coming out of the race. I certainly don't know the horse, but he does seem very full of life. So I'll be curious to kind of hear the reports of how he goes getting back to the track and, how he's moving coming out of it, because just from the glimpses I've seen, he looks really good. And he probably will have a little bit of pace to close into. And I stick with John in that I think, the change in facility might actually suit him a little bit more. And I wouldn't worry as much about the cutback.
I'm not worried about the cutback, but whether the pace will develop is the question. So let's talk about the full field that we're potentially looking at here. Got a local hopeful, Taj Mahal. Many years we have a local hopeful. Many years the local hopeful is not that hopeful. What do you guys think of Taj Mahal?
I mean, I think Taj Mahal is the best local hope we've had in a very, very, very long time. I know he was being pointed for the Wood Memorial for a little bit. He probably would have won that race given how it played out. As it was, he ended up going in the Tessio and turned in, as you talked about, just an incredibly impressive effort. He cleared to the rail and the lead from post 10 without much trouble, turned away some challenges on the turn and won as much the best, and ran a much higher buyer figure than Albus, who won the Wood, ran in his race. So part of why I actually want Golden Tempo to go in the Preakness is because it'll make Taj Mahal's price on Preakness Day that much better. I think no matter who shows up, he's a very live contender, and he's proven no matter where he draws, if he makes the front, he's going to be hard to catch.
So let's talk about Mack, and I want to ask you about this. I've sort of wrestled with this race in my mind, with the Tessio in my mind. He did not go fast and was 10 lanes clear. And then they came to him, and then he ran away from them. I mean, he killed those horses. There's no question about that. But he didn't go fast to get there. If he goes as slow as he did in the Tessio, he's not only not first, he's not even close to first.
This is the sort of elephant in the room for me as well, because I felt like they did as much as they needed to really put the prep into the horse. And, if they felt like they had a winning horse underneath of them and sort of what was the plan here. He's a lightly raced horse, so I think they've done as much as they can to build in each start. But I agree with you in that as far as the pace goes, needs to be a little bit more. What I like about the horse is I don't think it's out of the question that he can take that step forward. We saw him do it going short off of a troubled trip. Now he has a little bit more stamina. He's proven going long. The way he finished up, all he had to do was work hard, get clear. He looked good doing it. He didn't look tired to me. He just looked like things were kind of geared down. Let the horse just go out for a gallop, essentially in the afternoon. And as soon as they came close, he just ran another sprint to finish things off. So I think he has the ability. I don't think he's a need the lead type. And I think he could sit a very nice trip in there. He's proven kind of whatever question you ask, he has answered and gone above and beyond in doing it.
Yeah, no question. And I agree with you. I don't think he's a need the lead type because, in fact, in his debut, he came. Was he last early? He was towards the rear of the field.
All off the pace and swooped the group, albeit against maidens, but still, he has shown that he's not a pure need the lead type, that he can sit off the pace and still do well.
And when he's on the front, if you take a look at the Let's Go Lando race, battling with a horse like that all the way through the stretch, when he's tired, first time on the front end, first time stretching out in just a second start, those are sort of the intangible qualities in a racehorse that you look for, but you can't really find out until you get out there.
Yeah. Who else are you guys looking forward to seeing that we're hearing may come to the Preakness?
If Oselli comes, I think that's really interesting. I liked him a bit in Virginia and just sort of faltered a little bit there at the end, but really proved himself in the Derby. So I think that would be definitely an intrigue. The new faces are always interesting and sort of how they shape up with the field.
John?
I think Silent Tactic on Mark Cassie could be very interesting. I had liked him a little bit as a Derby long shot. He was, of course, scratched that week. But Cassie said that he is still under Preakness consideration. I feel like he could fall through the cracks a little bit in the betting, especially with a lot of hype. I imagine going to not only Golden Tempo, but to the two Baffert runners, in particular Crude Velocity, who won the Pat Day Mile and ended up, I believe, closing as the favorite in the Preakness Future Book, which is kind of nuts. But if Silent Tactic goes, he could well end up being the value of that field.
I completely agree with you. And I'm glad you mentioned him. He's another one who I think is really lively. I've liked what he's done in recent efforts. So we get a really good horse who I thought had a bit of a shot in the Derby that comes to the Preakness.
Yeah, he is like a classic sort of under the radar horse. Like he keeps running pretty good races, but not winning, and he's the sort of horse that gets lost in the shuffle a little bit, but on
He
his best day.
he comes out of the Arkansas Derby, right? Right, he was.
John, you got that?
Yeah, I think he was second in the Arkansas Derby behind Renegade, and then and Great White, who acted up behind the gate in the Derby and was scratched. You know, he was getting a lot of buzz once he drew off the also eligible list. He's another horse who I think could make some noise a week from Saturday. Hopefully, good kind of noise, not the noise he made last Saturday.
Yes.
Yeah, that would be
I have
bad.
to say, though, I mentioned the Arkansas Derby because I thought what Silent Tactic did there was very impressive and just visually looked like a horse who I'm going to bet back next time out. So that's a replay that I think is worth watching.
Which we do not have queued up, but
That's okay.
someone will watch it subsequently. All right, let's talk about Laurel for a minute, and then I'll let you guys handicap the late pick 5 on Saturday. Finally got baby races. How about that? And the first of them was Costa Linda, who is named for a place in Aruba. And I thought this was a pretty impressive for a first-time starting 2-year-old, guys.
I have to agree with you. I mean, she did a lot in that. And so we talked about it with Taj Mahal, where, it's really hard not to respect horses who are able to take a few different challenges. And then she gets clear and she just really puts on a show, as professional as can be. And so nice to see exciting first-time starter in our first 2-year-old race this season.
Yeah, I she kind of breaks a little slow, like cruises up sort of quite bravely between horses and just runs past them. John, I was talking with Jerry and Gina Robb, whose horse it is, and they were saying that they had sent her to Patrick Noosh in Virginia to get Virginia certified and whatnot, and he just was apparently raving about this horse. They said they sent him several horses, and every time they talked to him, the only one he wanted to talk about was this horse.
Well, that's not a big lead about this horse. Speaking of the Robs, she is the second foal out of Anna's Bandit, the West Virginia bred Maryland sired superstar who also broke her maiden in impressive fashion in May of her 2-year-old season. Her older half brother, Tughtable, not off to as good of a start in his 2-year-old season. So it is very promising to see her come out of the gate this strong. I mean, obviously, it's still May of the 2-year-old season. It's like watching a kid play junior high school sports and trying to extrapolate what they'll do in the future. But you can't do anything more than be impressive at first asking, and she certainly was. I know Jerry has had a lot of success in early season 2-year-old races and an early season 2-year-old stakes. So it would not surprise me if we saw her possibly at Saratoga on Belmont Stakes weekend this time out.
Yeah, he was talking about either there or they have the baby stakes at Churchill,
which he won last year with Romeo.
And then he turned Romeo into $1.7 million for Joey Lloyd. But
not a bad ROI.
Well, that's a story for a different day, isn't it? The other baby race, the boys, Call Me Mickey J goes to the front and gets the money for the Salzman Barn. Salzman Barn, like the Robb Barn, does love to win these early 2-year-old races, Mac.
This was really interesting because the Robb Barn sent out a half to Anna's Bandit, who we also see in this race. He had a little trouble from the gate, just ended up chasing, and Call Me Mickey J took some pressure. He was the horse that physically was most impressive to me in the paddock, and I can't emphasize that enough because I just kept finding my eyes coming back to him. We were all a little bit curious, pedigree, does it suit this distance surface? But I really liked the way that he was kind of hounded along every single step, and then, just willingly kind of went out there and did his job. He's a very attractive horse. Looks like he still has some growing to do, but has a nice big frame, and it's kind of a fun one to see go off on debut that way.
Named for Mick Jagger.
Hmm.
John, the Salzman bar, John Salzman Jr., like that's pretty much a business plan, which is buy horses he thinks can win early and get them ready to win early.
And it works out very well for him, as evidenced by his annual success early in the year. I call him the Wesley Ward of Maryland to out-of-towners, so they know what I'm talking about. And I think what I'm calling Mickey J is, while he was not as visually impressive as Costa Linda, he actually went a little bit faster for the same distance. Costa Linda ran 4.5 furlongs in 54.6. He did so in 54.34 and did so in pretty nice fashion. So he's in a very similar boat as Costa Linda. And you don't know how he's going to progress, but he has a very nice future apparently ahead of him. And he is a West Virginia bred. And we know there's a very lucrative West Virginia bred stakes program at Charlestown. So I wonder if Salzman is going to make the trip an hour west a few times this season with him.
Could well. If he's nominated, the Breeders' Classics are coming up in October. But they don't typically get the 2-year-old program started in West Virginia until much later than Maryland.
Not till later, but I mean,
but a couple states down the road. So.
There are not many, if any others at this point. But right now, he looks like a horse who's going to be a big contender, not just in those races, but you can make a lot of money at Charlestown as a West Virginia bred who likes going 4.5 furlongs, and he's shown that he likes that distance just fine.
Speaking of which, did you guys happen to catch who's entered Friday at Charlestown? I'll give you a hint. He's a Maryland bred. He's Maryland sired. He made a ton of money last year as a 3-year-old and won a race in West Virginia last year.
Oh, he's back.
He's
back.
Barbadian Runners and an allowance Friday night at Charlestown.
Wow, very interesting.
Good spot.
Yeah, I was texting with Paul Espinosa, who's the track announcer out there, and he was like, "Oh, this is a great race." I was like, "Holy smokes! I didn't have that one on my bingo card for him to come back in a $38,000 race." But
and you know what? It's actually a pretty salty field. I mean, you got a lot of the Charlestown All-Stars in that race. So while he's still the most likely winner, it's no cupcake for his first start off the bench.
No, not at all. Not at all. He's going to have to run a pretty good race. So anyway.
I'm just pulling it up. Is Forrest going to ride him?
She's named.
Very fun.
Yeah. Well, they I think it was on him. They won the Bobby Hilton last year, where that was a race that's totally set up for a closer, and I had the Danny Mackenzie closer, not the Henry Walters closer.
Alas.
Yes, exactly. Alas is correct. Yes. All right. Haley's first notion you want to talk about.
Yes, another horse who was very impressive last year, making his 2026 debut. He did so last Friday in the 3rd level allowance, went off as the favorite and won very impressively. I will not say magic words about his Maryland Million chances that I've said many times, but he did look very, very sharp. He won by 7 3/4 lengths, went 6 furlongs in 1:09. I know Gary Capuano has been a little bit gun-shy about putting him in stakes races. He seems more than happy to just ride the allowance circuit with them. But I would like to see this guy in a few, at least Mid-Atlantic Spin Stakes this year, because I think he could do some serious damage.
Mac, are you gonna run the future book on his Maryland Million chances?
I'm just thinking, Celtic Contender comes back. Haley's First Notion comes back. It's looking like a pretty good pool.
Really?
That was sneaky. That was good.
I'm getting John's hopes up.
He's already got his wallet out. Like, let me get in on this.
Yes.
Well, you got them, and you got Quinn Drew. You got Obadian runner. It could be a big U. The Maryland Million Dirt Races, because it's coming up in only 5 months and 18 days.
Quince
Crab
Brew.
Daddy. Or no, he's
Yeah.
Pennsylvania?
No, he's Pennsylvania bred, Maryland sire, though, yes.
There we go.
Yeah. Slam Notion. Where's Slam Notion? We need him back.
Yeah. Slam Notion and Wicked Divine, too.
Yeah.
We could put that together.
That's it. Quince Brew, no good this weekend, though. He
No, but you know what?
did not
That
run
was a
very
very
well
tough
on it.
field. That was a very tough field. I think he'll do much better should he make a comeback in the Mid-Atlantic. And
It's also a small field. I mean, you feel for post time in running into 3-horse races, and this just kind of felt like the same thing, where it wasn't really an honest setup. So
right.
I tend to draw a line through merry-go-round races and 3 to 4 horse fields, unless it's a horse that won in the 3 or 4 horse field. Then maybe I take it seriously. But.
All right. Why don't you guys handicap the late pick 5 Saturday at Laurel, and I will disappear myself.
Sounds good. Have fun disappearing.
That's what I'm best at.
He's probably checking the cabinet, seeing how much room he has for Black-Eyed Susan glasses for this year.
Well, you know, I mean, gotta stock up on that. I already got my cabinets full of Old Bay ready for next week.
There we go. All right. So in the meantime, though, one weekend to get through as the excitement builds. And I have a hard time focusing once we get to this weekend. So it's good we're covering this early in the week. The buzz for Preakness starts to build. So starting with that late pick 5 for Saturday. Race 5 kicks things off, claiming 12-5 down to 10. Never won 2 in life. But this one's for the girls, going 7 furlongs. We spoke off air a little bit about how some of these races through the sequence feel like if you get a speed horse who just needs to get to the front end, they might just stay there. Is that how you see this one starting off?
Yes, I do. And that angle is especially true with Jamie Ness trained horses. There have been many times where I've seen a Ness trained horse who showed, maybe a little bit of speed on paper, but isn't like a proven front runner in a race without a lot of established speed. And they just go to the front and just keep going. And I think that's going to happen here with one half of his coupled entry. That's the one Tammy's Cruiser. Tracked the pace last time out at Parks, ended up 4th. Did set the pace 3 and 4 starts ago at Aqueduct and held on reasonably well both times. This is a race, as we mentioned, without a lot of speed. She gets both Yedzie Hazelwood up and blinkers on for the first time. So you got to figure that she's going to be sent. I think she makes the front. And especially in these cheap races, if a horse like her makes the lead, no one's going to catch it.
Now, here's the question. He has the coupled entry. That one's the speed. Then we see the other, who is a little bit of a mid-pack closer style. I don't think she'll be too far off of it. But if we end up scratching your top choice, do you use the other one on top, or do you look at the other possible speed?
I would, because, the Y1-2 one would do angle is always very potent. In fact, we saw with John Salzman last Saturday, who had 2 in that juvenile race. He scratched his other one, and Call Me Mickey J got the money. The other big speed, should Tammy's Cruiser not go, is number 4, Turkish Breeze, who broke a maiden from just off the pace, 2 starts back, switched over to grass last time out, did not do a lot there, didn't even make the front after acting up in the gate, and ended up well beaten. But in these cheap races, I also like horses who have not lost at this level before, which she has not done, and also horses who are lightly raced. She's only raced 3 times and has not lost on dirt against winners. Now, I think if Tammy's Cruiser is in this race, I don't think Turkish Breeze is going to be able to make the front. But should Tammy's Cruiser scratched, I don't see much speed to her inside.
I have to agree with you there, but Tammy's Cruiser, I feel like she's going to end up staying in. The race looks to set up quite well for her. Do you single first leg?
Yes, especially because I think, especially the grass races are somewhat chaotic. So this is a good spot to single. Speaking of grass, I do want to note, just for the record, there's a chance of rain this weekend at Laurel. We are going to handicap these, of course, assuming they stay on the grass. And our grass crew does a fantastic job, so fingers crossed we'll be fast and at least good this weekend, if not further.
We need the rain. It's been very, very firm and certainly has helped the speed hold as we see in early season as well. So breathe a little bit of life back into that turf course. Race number 6, we get over to the turf course, maiden 16 down to 12.5, 3, 4, 5, and 6-year-olds going 2 turns, mile and a 16th on the turf course there. This is one of the races where it's a little bit chaotic. I thought it was more straightforward than some of the others, though. Few horses coming out of similar trips. Who do you use on top?
I feel myself kind of falling into a trap with number 5. It's Electric. Because if he runs back to either of his races last year against straight maidens, he's going to win. But he hasn't raced since July, so he's coming off about a 10-month layoff. And Jorge Duarte horses on grass tend to get overbet a lot, and they don't win as often as folks think. So while he has the most ability in the field, he's certainly going to be overbet, and I would not bet him to win. The horse I would probably bet to win is number 6, Ravage for Kerry Breon. Tried steeplechasing twice earlier this year, did not take to it. Ran pretty well on the fairgrounds grass over the winter in her 2 starts off the year plus layoff, or his first 2 starts off the year plus layoff, rather. He's definitely trending in the right direction. I think he'll do much better going back to the flat, and I'm hoping that he goes off at a decent price.
No, I do agree with you. It's an interesting one. But I want to go back to the number 5, It's Electric. I agree with you, and it's sort of a resignation. But this is a horse who's a full sibling to Colonel Liam. Mm-hmm. And Colonel Liam didn't necessarily need class relief to go ahead and win. But it was through disqualification, worked through allowance company before he took on stakes company. What I think is different is the other half siblings have sort of taken a little bit of class relief, taken a few starts, and they've gone on to do well going long on the turf. So for me, I give this horse one more shot. It's kind of right here. And, I'm not singling on him by any means, but I do think he's a horse who makes a little bit more sense than some of the other class drops that we see, especially coming in second time LASIK, second time blinkers, gelding, just getting back as a little bit more mature individual. Wanted to ask you about the number 4, though, Vignon Manor. I thought maybe didn't have the easiest of times out in the first off the bench, but ran well. They pull the blinkers off here today. Second time LASIKs. Another one who just a little bit older and wiser could work.
He did run very well in that race. He was in the mix late in his first start off a six month layoff and hung on very well. On the Brisnet scale, he ran right back to a lot of the figures that he ran last year. He ran a 65 that afternoon. I mean, he was running in the mid-upper 60s towards the end of last season. And that kind of leads me into another point, which is I think if you go past it's Electric, there's so many different ways that you can go. But if you spread while using it's Electric and he wins at 4-5 or whatever he does, then you kind of feel like a puts. So I feel like you kind of have to either single it's Electric or spread without using him. And if he beats you, at least you try to be the favorite.
See, I think I might sort of meet in the middle there because I do agree with you. I think I might, if we can single in the first and then use 2, maybe I'll spread for 3 here. But I think I'm going to try to get through still using him because I don't want him to beat me at a short price. But we'll see. We'll get those answers this weekend. Now, I did want to point out Freedom Glider in here. Comes out for Salzman. I thought looked very good when he made that first off the bench effort. But he was getting out pretty badly on the far turn and then had a little bit of a late kick. How much weight do you put into that, or how do you use him in here?
I mean, to a point about speed earlier, he is the main speed in this field, and he set very, very fast tractions, much faster than he really had to. He went the opening quarter in 23-2, the half in 47-3. And to your point, he probably just was not that settled, and he did run back on in the stretch once he was kind of back in his widths. And he ran in the 70s pretty consistently last year. I mean, he is going to make the front. If he takes a step forward, second off of the layoff, he may not be able to be caught. But I will say this is a much tougher maiden 16 field than he saw last time. So even if he gets his pace, the closers might just be too good for him to hold off.
That's kind of how I see it. So sort of figuring where to put him in the selections, but an interesting one who certainly does make sense, but I think there are some caveats there, maybe demand a little value. Race 7, we shorten up here on the turf, going the 5.5, and this one is starter optional, 3-year-olds and up. And well, you could kind of go a lot of different ways. The more you look at this, the more you wonder. But Carnaby, a video that you sent in, is this your top choice here? Yes,
it is. And to my point about class drops that aren't readily apparent on paper, I mean, Bushido, who is the one horse in this race, he won. He was coming in very sharp form. He was a dominant early speed and ran like it on paper. Noah Chance, who was second that day, also coming in very sharp dirt form. And the horses in here are not nearly of the caliber of those two. So you could argue that this is a class drop for Carnaby in his second grass start of the season. And this was his first grass start of any sort after winning back-to-back races at Parks. And I thought he ran on well here. He's in the red blinkers. He's got he kind of loses his clearance at this point. Angle's a bit wide. Rallies on well once he really gets going and ends up coming in third. He really had no shot to catch Bushido the way that race played out, but he ran about as well as he could given the circumstances. I think with that grass race under his belt and a drop in class, he's going to run a big race.
I agree with you. I think he very much the horse to beat because he has recency and he has good form coming into that race. So I completely agree. The horses he was facing on that day are just not the same as what he's going to see in here. Tell me a little bit, do you single on him or are there a few others you try to use?
I'm tempted to single with him, but I do think a few others merit respect. The second choice is number 7, Summer B, who spent his winter in Florida for Michael Deeney. He ran well in his lone grass start of the winter at Tampa Bay Downs, had a bit of traffic trouble on the far turn, but still ran on well and was only beaten by a length and a half against first level allowance company. Didn't do much on the Gulfstream Park synthetic in his first start off a long layoff last time out, but he's worked well since then. He's very grassy pedigree. He's shown a lot of grass ability in the past, up and down the Mid-Atlantic. I think this is a good spot for him to show his best self.
I'd agree with you. He is a big player in here for me. I tend to, if a horse, maybe throws a little bit of a clunk for a synthetic effort, I don't worry about it so much. He also was coming off almost a year layoff, and so I give him a little bit of a chance to jump back into things here. The price kind of needs to be right for him, though. About what price do you think you'd be playing him?
I mean, we are handicapping this before morning lines come out. I'd say about 4-1 on him would be a square price. I do think those Florida lines are going to cause him to get overbet, but he is still worth using in any pick 5 play. And I do want to note that last grass start was indeed in April of 2025, not April of 2026. But nonetheless, he has shown a lot of grass ability throughout his career, at least relatively.
Certainly has. So if he can kind of get back to it, no problems here, willing to give him a shot. It's a good sign that they're able to go ahead and protect him in here as well. So that's, always worth taking note of. We'll take a look at race 8. This one's a starter allowance for the girls. 3 and up, going the 7 furlongs. There are 2, again, the question of the speed in here. Enigmatic or R. Avery Lynn? You could maybe throw in Royal Seamsters too.
Well, I'm still a little battle-scarred by R. Avery Lynn because she had a very, very, very long streak where she loved coming in second and third and never won, but she has found her best self as of late. She's won 3 times in a row, barely even being headed in any of those races. Faced a similar bunch, but this one last time out was pressed every step of the way, but still held on and won by a length with her usual figure in the mid-70s. Now, in a lot of those races, there hasn't been the same quality of early speed that she'll see here. Enigmatic, 1, 2, and 3 starts back, both times by open lengths, one from on the pace, one from just off. Tried to duel last time out against first-level foes and ended up flattening out. So I do wonder if Jorge Vargas is going to try to take a little bit further off the pace this time and let Avery Lynn and Royal Seamstress battle it out. It would set up well for Enigmatic if that happens. It would also set up well for number 5, Book of Wisdom. Going first off the claim for Mike Corrales, who has not won yet at the meet, but over the past few years hits at 35% first off the claim. He did take this one out of a 1 mile claiming race last time out. A little bit better field than this one. She had to close off of extremely slow fractions. She was 9.5 lengths off an opening quarter of 25 and 2/5 seconds. Really got no shot to win unless you're just a super horse. So considering how that race played out, it was about as well as she could run given the circumstances. She's cutting back from 1 mile to 7 furlongs. The pace is assuredly going to be much hotter, and I think that's going to make things very nice for Book of Wisdom.
I'm glad you bring her up, because one thing that is worth pointing out about her in that mile effort is that was a funny race in that you had a bunch of sprinters who were just stretching out. And so it didn't really make sense to me on paper that any of the sprinters were really going to be able to run their race. And it sort of felt like, I see what you're going for here, but it doesn't ultimately set up for them to kind of get that trip. And that's, I think, what we see when we see the opening 25.42. So I'm pretty forgiving of that race. She was very good in the 3 back. Bay Street has since come back to win, and I think that does solidify things. So I really do kind of 6 furlong, 7 furlong, think that she can run in that, low to mid 50 buyers and certainly get the job done. Is there anyone else? Do you spread around here, or do you try to key off of the forward types?
I mean, I might single Book of Wisdom, depending on how deep I go in the first few legs, just because I think she's going to get the trip. I would only use one other horse, because I think in a 6-horse field, if you spread too much, you end up kind of backfiring. So I would use Enigmatic, partially because she has that tactical speed, and also because she's more proven going 7 furlongs. I mean, she won Geach Wire at 7 furlongs, 3 starts back. And while our Avery Lynn has won at 7 furlongs way back in the day, all of her recent starts have been at 5.5 and 6 furlongs. So it's possible that she shows her usual early speed and then hits the 8th pole and just runs out of gas.
Certainly does set up. We'll see what Enigmatic and our Avery Lynn end up doing. I think the first quarter is really going to be telling there. We wrap things up, and this is a race I'm excited to talk about. Starter allowance, and this one 6 furlongs, 3-year-olds and up. The boys in here, Searcy, I thought very impressive. Nearly singled on him this past weekend. I don't know if we'll end up sticking in here, but Heldish is another one who has the back class. So can he go ahead and get the job done here?
I think he can. I mean, he ran into an absolute beast in Kurnis K last time out. Nobody was beating him, and Kurnis K has come back to win, I believe, twice, while just making absolute mincemeat of the starter allowance types. So really take him out of the mix, and Heldish did very well that afternoon. He was second, 1 3/4 lengths clear of El Divino Nino, who has been in sharp form all winter as well. Ran a 92 on Brisbane scale that afternoon, not too far off from his career top of 94. And he's had kind of an interesting career. He was very promising at 2, kind of tailed off throughout the 2024 season, and going to the sidelines for over a year. Came back in the fall of 2025, did absolutely nothing at first asking, but he's been slowly getting better with every start, and this could be the race where he puts it all together.
It certainly is. Now, the 3-back effort when he stumbled, I have to say, I don't think I had him that day, but I was really worried that he was going to beat me. And it was actually quite telling because he looked great traveling. I mean, he made a mistake early on, but other than that, I had no qualms with what he did out there. So it was kind of like we got to see him go out for training or see him in the morning. Woodline, Beach Cowboy, good horses that were in there, and he cruised right along with them. So when he came back last out going the 6 furlongs, I do think he's back and going to hold true to form here. Is there anyone else you think could upset at the end of this day?
The second choice is Ecumenical, who's getting a big class test here, and really this is more of a pick in Hugh McMahon and Yezid Hazelwood. We trust Hazelwood has ridden him a victory the last 2 times he was aboard, but those wins were against much softer company, against non-winners of 2 and non-winners of 3 types. The horses in those races have done okay, but they're not of the same caliber as Heldish and Circe. That being said, he does have some good tactical speed, and he could get the pace it flows into, as I figure that Brusky Island, her post 1, and Just for the Money from post 3 are going to make the pace honest, and that would help it fall right into Ecumenical's lap.
I have to agree. Ecumenical on the outside, I like a little bit in that setup as well. It was the winning trip for him last time out, so he might get lucky with this setup here. Fun card, though, as we kind of gear up and build a little bit of a bankroll for Preakness weekend coming up. John, anything else we need to add?
No, I mean, as you said, don't go too crazy this weekend. Save your bankroll, but it is a very nice sequence. Good value can be found. And it is strange because usually this is the weekend where we move over to Pimlico, and yet we're still at Laurel. So it just feels kind of strange.
It does. The new normal, or at least for this year. But no, I think you're right in that we can find some value. You don't necessarily need to be playing the largest ticket price, but it certainly is worth playing because I don't think you're going to have to eat too much chalk.
Right. I agree.
Frank?
Let's hope not. Interesting little trainer stat for you. That's what I'm trying to say. It's electric. The horse you're talking about in the first grass race, the maiden race. Duarte coming off the long layoff, dropping maiden special weight to maiden claiming, 3 for 5. So
I've tried to beat it, and I've learned my lesson. And
I know it's one you want to try to beat that horse because the horse gonna be short, right? I mean, the horse gonna be favored.
He's going to be short, and he's also one who you can't single either. And so you can, but I don't think it's a good strategy to single him. And so that's why I say, I think I just need to use 2 in there. Maybe I'll use 3 depending on scratches or how the other things come up. But, I don't want to spend a ton. I think he probably should win, but you also can't single him.
If he's ready to run first off the bench, he wins there. But
yes,
but we don't know that.
Right. He has the most ability of anyone in here. There's no question about that. It's a matter of if he shows up.
Right. But a trainer stat that give you a little confidence. Yeah, you were talking about R. Avery Lynn too. She spent a lot of last summer running behind. You mentioned her finishing second a lot behind the same horse over and over, which was Rita Book. And Rita Book was, an inch better than her last year, and they proved that 4 different times. But she sure is on a good roll now, isn't she?
I have to say, I'm glad you bring it up because I didn't go back and say she's one who I'm pretty forgiving about those second place finishes because she's been very compelling and she always shows up, runs her race, does her part. It's really just whether she's the best one on that particular day. But a horse you can count on is worth a lot.
I mean, she's hit the exacta 36 times in 61 starts. That's pretty bananas.
Yeah. And she likes to win. And
yes. She's not one who tosses in the towel. It's really just, is she the best one on that day?
In fact, I think that was Rodman's call in her last race was something about how much she likes to win.
I have to go back.
I think now I've got myself all revved up here. Because I think yeah. She was on the lead, and a rival came to her and put a head in front, and she fought back and was pulling away from her. Won by a length, I think. So, yeah, go back and listen to Dave's call because Dave's the best. But
I agree, and that was the Mike Moore horse. She was kind of quicker turnarounds, but she was in very good form too. So,
yeah.
That could be a Cougar race, I thought, kind of solidified our Avery Lynn.
Yeah. And then the turf sprint, aren't there? It's an interesting race because it's like a bunch of horses coming off the bench. One horse has made like 85 starts and none on turf. And you wonder if some of these people are saying, "Well, they might come off," and I want to be around for that. But
Right.
It looks like that kind of race. Frank, I'm so glad you chimed in here after we handicapped. You can join us for the handicapping part too.
It's much better for you guys to put your opinions out there.
So force build or anything.
Although I think I'm doing the morning show on Saturday, so
nice.
So you're taking notes.
Exactly. I'm just going to do whatever, well, Max said this and John said that, and that's all I'm going to do.
So if this horse loses, blame them. Don't blame me.
Exactly. All right. This isn't my terrible pick. It's my terrible pick.
Now, you say that for race 7, the turf sprint.
Yeah.
So I had the same thing where I get more and more dizzy the more I look at it. And if you don't look at Carnaby, does that mean it just goes to Nola Boss getting back to the turf? Because that was a race where you can look.
I didn't think so. At least I don't think I thought so. Yeah, no, I wasn't using Nola Boss. I mean, I don't know. There's you just said this. There's a million ways you can go in here. Can Sammy Davis get Island Delight ready off the bench?
I thought yes.
Carnaby is obvious. No, I hate doing this without the numbers. I mean, Summer B, Mike Deeney's horse. You know what? I think that the other speed here is Night
Spotted
Preacher for Kelly Dieter, I thought. And I might play around with that horse a little bit. Probably not good enough. But, has run some pretty okay races on the turf.
I agree with you. I was looking at Night Preacher and Spotted Bull in here. And Night Preacher on the turf, he's in a very different group than he was last time we saw him on the turf. And Elton Marin, War Humor, King Covey, I don't necessarily mind that. And the Spotted Bull horse has been good on a wet track, and he's only run once on the turf. Is he the one who you were saying 85 starts, right?
Yeah, and 1 on turf. I lied. 1, not 0.
Yeah.
But go ahead. You're about to give us a little pedigree fact.
Oh, no. I mean, the pedigree suits, and the fact that he's been good on a wet track recently, I think is really interesting. So he's by Munnings. He's not terribly out of form. I ran a 72 by or 2 back, and the mare was a pretty good turf horse. So,
and this one's a half for a stakes win on.
Mm-hmm.
It's fascinating that 85 starts they haven't gotten the horse on turf at all.
Right.
Yeah.
So definitely a lot of things you could do in a couple of these races, and hopefully we can, as you say, John, build our bankrolls and be ready for the Preakness.
That's the idea. More money bet on Cruz and Nile in the dinner party, hopefully, and Taj Mahal in the Preakness.
So Taj Mahal, you mentioning him again. I think the last local horse that you could make a legitimate case for that wasn't like something crazy happens and this horse wins case was Always Mining.
Yes, I remember.
Who had obliterated the field in the Tessio like this horse did. ran big figures, got bet, and
one of the favorites in the fitness year, in fact, which is crazy.
Was there and then was empty at the head of the lane. Was done at that point, but
yeah, but he was the best for Hope in quite some time. I mean, you've had horses like Ichabod Crane and Magic Wisner, who were the last two Walker horses to hit the board, but neither of them were contenders going in. So it's going to be interesting to see a Maryland horse finally be considered like a bona fide favorite or one of the favorites in the figures.
I guess we'll see who comes. I mean, where do you think? Just your surmise,
6-7 to 1.
You think that low?
Well, because he was 20 to 1 in the future book, which included a lot of Derby horses. All those Derby horses are not going to be there. Take them out. So a few more mediocrities in the bunch, and I think about 6-7 to 1 is going to be.
Which I think was Always Mining was like 7 to 1, wasn't he?
He was about that too. Yes.
Yeah.
I think it depends on who we get. If you have Silent Tactic, Golden Tempo, and Ocelli, I think you end up looking more like 12 something.
I mean, those horses, if those horses all post, they're going to consume a lot of the public's money.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're going to have a lot to talk about next week with everything.
Black-Eyed Susan, Party,
Dinner Party.
How many mint juleps? Oh no, not mint juleps. Wow,
Black-Eyed Susans.
I should be shot for that one. How many Black-Eyed Susans we're going to have this week? Oh my god.
Now, do you guys remember Shaky, the vendor?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
He was the best. I don't guess he used to do O's games too, but
I knew him from the O's games. My dad said hi to him every single game, and
is that right?
Absolutely loved him. They were homies.
Yeah, he always sold the Black-Eyed Susans. He was the best. So, all right, guys, good stuff. Thank you very much for sharing your insights, and we're gonna we're gonna do this all again next week.
Sounds great.
Sounds good. Can't wait.
All right, interesting sequence there in the pick 5 that we're going to have to wrestle with. And we're going to be coming back at you next week to talk Preakness, to talk Black-Eyed Susan, Pimlico Special, all kinds of good stuff that we got to talk about next week as Maryland's biggest weekend of racing arrives. And we're very excited about that. So we'll be talking all about it right here on Maryland Racing Today, part of the Mid-Atlantic Racing Today family of podcasts. Maryland Racing Today is powered by the Racing Biz, theracingbiz.com, presented by our friends at the Maryland Jockey Club. Thanks to them, thanks to John and Mac, and especially thanks to you for watching or listening. Please like and subscribe anywhere you get your podcasts. We are there, and we appreciate that very much. Have a great week, everybody. When we talk to you again, it's going to be Preakness time.